just live here!
Probable anti-citizen. Get those hands off!
Wait! Don't shoot!
One of the greatest things any piece of media can do is transport us. The feeling of being completely sucked in, losing all track of time, and being totally focused on whatever world is unfolding in front of you is precious. Yet as we get older and consume more, sometimes it can be harder to let your mind take off in the same way. Stories start repeating, ideas get tired, and it can feel like you've already been to a technically brand new place. Yet every once in a while, something comes along that pushes so far ahead, it captures you completely and fiercely, not only transporting you, but lighting a festival of fireworks inside your mind with possibilities for the future. Half-Life Alyx feels in every way like that push.
Hey, wait, no!
Sometimes VR can feel more like a gimmick than a game. It's almost like developers get wrapped up in the exciting prospect of what's possible in virtual reality, and a lot of substance falls to the wayside. In the beginning of Half-Life Alyx, it seems possible that the same thing could happen here. Things move slowly as it flexes its VR muscles, pushing impressive interactions with characters that feel lifelike, while also giving you a bountiful playground of objects to tinker with. Yet Alyx is nowhere near content with being a great theme park ride, instead using its opening to acclimate the player. In fact, Alyx has a near-perfect pace, as it meticulously ramps things up in a way that always pushes you, while also making certain you're properly prepared for what lies ahead.
Something's got the CPs riled up. Keep your head down and be smart.
Making it all work are the genius gravity gloves you obtain very early on. These gloves give your hands a magnetic pull, allowing you to simply point at a wide variety of objects and snap your wrist to fling something directly into your hand. The act of reaching out and flicking offers a tangible and kinetic feeling to item gathering. It's a natural motion that makes the usually routine act of collection a whole new experience. It allows Valve to get incredibly creative with where they place items without overly taxing the player. You grab things from high shelves or from underneath a mountain of boxes, and even dig through trash cans just to find a bit more ammunition or precious resin to upgrade weapons. Because useful items feel like they can be anywhere, it makes the process of exploration more exciting as you duck, twist, and turn your body, trying to comb over every inch. Beyond grabbing things that have practical uses, even just messing around is a game unto itself. There are bottles to break, cans to crush, markers to draw with, and so on. Seeing how every little item can be toyed with is delightful on its own, but these moments never come at the cost of deeper interactions.
Don't get greedy, guys. We're not made of time here.
1 minute and I'm out, guaranteed.
It's difficult to overstate how intense and thrilling shootouts are because of how well Valve executes on the smallest details. Even the simplest gun, the pistol, offers an incredible sensation of feedback. Every shot has a sharp pop, and the vibration offers a believable kick. Beyond the presentation, Alyx does so much to give physical weight to its arsenal that it plays into combat in fascinating ways.
Oh, man.
There's barnacles on our side. It's not though, obviously, so don't walk under them.
The shotgun is exceptionally powerful, capable of downing even the burliest enemies with a few blasts. However, it can take significant time to reload if you run out of shells, requiring you to open the gun, reach behind you to grab shells from your inventory, close the gun, and then cock it with a small handle on the side. Because you can't just hit a button to reload, the process is important to consider during a fight, adding palpable tension. Desperately reaching for ammo as a headcrab screeches past your head is horrifying. Having to be so thoughtful about reloading sounds as though it could be annoying, but it isn't. The actions aren't necessarily difficult, but they can be costly.
3 left.
Alyx almost feels as if it's taking on the best elements of survival horror. Consideration of resources is vital, as is awareness of the strengths and weaknesses of each weapon. This only becomes more important later on when frantic fights mix enemies together more heavily. Enemies stay consistently interesting because there are so many different ways you can interact with them. Such playfulness has always been a hallmark of Half-Life, but VR enriches this strength even more. Ducking down and picking up a grenade only to send it right back at an enemy is exhilarating. Not because returning a grenade is a new concept, it's been in plenty of games, but because the physical nature of Alyx and the gravity gloves add a whole new dimension. Barnacles are simple stationary targets with disgustingly long tongues that you don't want to get stuck on. They're such a classic Half-Life enemy that their inclusion in Alyx is hardly a surprise, but due to how the game works, they feel brand new all over again. Having to angle your head in just the right way to find out where they're hiding, or throwing an object into their tongue to make it retract, is memorable every time because of how involved you feel as a player. You have to physically throw objects, taking your own aim and momentum into consideration. Alyx is not just a new Half-Life game, but it uses VR to completely reinterpret what being inside Half-Life means.
Alyx, great. Okay, let's... Wait, my drone's okay, right?
Nope, it exploded. I'm fine, by the way.
Right, good, well, that's the main.
Considering how fantastic some of Alyx's ideas are, it's to the game's credit that it has such willingness to move on and mix things up. In one chapter, you're covered in total darkness and surrounded by freakish poison head crabs with only a flashlight illuminating the path forward. In another, you skulk around a destroyed zoo, its abandoned exhibits instilling a sort of terrifying wonderment. The best section has you avoiding a nearly unkillable menace while dealing with extremely claustrophobic circumstances. Every chapter seems to go out of its way to surprise you, and these ideas are rarely just surface level. The game not only builds on old ideas over time, but does so in inventive ways that make Alyx truly remarkable.
Oh, do you need a minute? Because, I could pause the feed.
Just looking, Russ.
The only major instances when this isn't the case comes with the incessant mini-games that crop up when trying to activate devices or open something up. In these, you have to do things like navigating one point to another while avoiding red lines, or matching colors in a game of memory. At first, the mini-games feel like breathers between exploration and combat, as well as a simple way to adapt your brain to a VR space. But they're so numerous and similar that they start to feel like arbitrary time wasters. It's a notable blemish in a game that has so very few. It's hard to get hung up on anything for too long because of how effectively you're immersed into the world through the game's sheer attention to detail. Things like abrupt loading screens or instances when your VR hardware doesn't precisely register your movements fade into the background as you marvel at how intricately everything is pieced together. Picking up a teacup only to notice a stain on the inside, or grabbing a newspaper and looking at the headlines are just some of the most basic examples. Alyx wants you to touch and look at as much as possible, and the more you do, the more you feel connected to a city that has had something unimaginably horrible happen to it. Alyx is wisely not overly obsessed with lore or exposition, instead letting the very construction of its world do the heavy lifting. The player comes to a better understanding through their own natural exploration. Yet when it does lean into dialogue and character interaction, it delivers genuinely funny, grounded, and heartwarming lines that are convincing and true to the characters.
Now, pretty soon they're going to realise that your dad is not going to talk, and when that happens, he's off to have his brain sucked out.
Russell.
Potentially, maybe not though. I mean, they could just drill into
Stop.
his... Oh, yeah, still your dad. Right.
Fans have waited an absurd amount of time for a Half-Life game in any form. But when you're playing, the wait is really the furthest thing from your mind. Alyx is so completely captivating that as soon as you put it down, you want to talk to someone about it, get them to play it, really do anything you can to make them feel the same awe that you do. Like any great VR experience, it's something you can't possibly understand fully until you try it. But once you do, it's hard to recognize Alyx as anything other than a monumental achievement.
Alyx, are we good? Yep.
Easy Allies reviews are made possible by generous viewers just like you. If you like what you see, check out patreon.com/easyallies to help us make more. For just $1 a month, you can gain access to weekly updates, spoiler discussions, and exclusive shows.